find out life's this game of inches. So is football. Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. I mean, one half a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us.
Welcome into the Gibson Fantasy Football Podcast. Woo-hoo. We are here on a lovely Friday evening, July 8th, with my man, Mr. A-Aron.
That's right. I'm here. I'm here.
You sound like Marshawn Lynch, man.
I am here.
Now we have a Canada-wide internet situation going on with some Rogers stuff. So I don't have Rogers as a provider, but it does seem my internet's a bit choppy. So hopefully that won't affect our podcast tonight. But we'll trudge on and make do with what we have.
Absolutely.
How are you on this fine evening?
Doing good. Toby's relaxed at the feet down here, and hopefully he doesn't start barking like he's done in the previous podcast. If you follow our podcast, you'll probably hear Toby every now and then just going nuts. But he seems to be pretty tired out today. So
he's the third member of our team.
Yeah.
Well, if you are interested in finding anything we're up to, GibsonFantasyFootball.com, Gibson_FF on Twitter, or Gibson Fantasy Football, all one word, on Instagram, YouTube, Podbean, and Spotify.
Ooh.
We are back today, continuing our training camp battles series, and we are headed southbound today. Now, this is particularly fortunate for us, as there was an intriguing trade that occurred just a few days ago that we will now get to talk about. Now, unfortunately, this team was not a very good team last year, and they happen to be in the NFC, so they're the last team we're going to talk about. But that's okay. We'll save the best for last, as they say.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. All right. Any thoughts on these two divisions before we get into each one of these teams?
Always love the battles of the teams within the division. The Colts always having good battles with the Houston Texans. Always good games. Tennessee, maybe Jacksonville's year. No. And the NFC South, can old man Brady, can he still throw the ball? To me, we'll talk about it, but I just think he's past. But anyways, yeah, great matchups. I love the Falcons and Panthers kind of rival they got going on usually. So, yeah, like both divisions.
Yeah, a couple of fun ones. And teams that I'm mostly either fond of or neutral on. There's not any of these teams that I'm anti or annoy me in any way.
Yeah, I hate Tennessee. I hate the Titans.
Just throwing it out there, man.
The damn Music Bowl Miracle, or whatever they call that game against Buffalo in the AFC playoff game.
Oh, yeah.
Conference game.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. That was horrible.
Music City Miracle, yeah.
Maybe I should just let it go, but whatever.
Yeah, just, frozen that situation and let it go. All right, well, let's jump into your favorite team here then. And
yeah, that's a good segue.
Yeah, you set it up nicely for us. So we got a couple of intriguing things here. So A.J. Brown departed from the Titans, and he was clearly the wide receiver one. He was pretty much their whole receiving core for the most part, really. But they got, so they picked up Robert Woods in a trade from the Rams, which is kind of intriguing. Now, Woods tore his ACL last year, but it was week 10, so not super late in the year. And for wide receivers, tends to be an injury they can come back from fairly quickly. So reports are saying he's looking pretty good, which is intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the pick that they got for A.J. Brown, they immediately turned that into rookie wide receiver Treylon Burks. So, excuse me, we've had some interesting reports. I mean, camp reports, like before training camps even started, about, Treylon Burks and struggling with asthma and not available to practice and stuff. And it's like, who knows what to make of all that yet. I mean, the asthma thing can't be new to anybody, but evidently he hasn't been on the field as much as you would like for a rookie. But what are your thoughts here on Robert Woods versus Treylon Burks? I mean, you got Westbrook Akina there as well, but I don't think anybody thinks he's going to win the job.
No, you got Des Fitzpatrick as a third option as well too. Just throwing it out there, but yeah, Robert Woods, is he kind of like that? It's not late in the season, week 10, but it's still kind of, I don't know. To me, it's still going to be question mark, but we'll see. But I don't know. I'm not the biggest Ryan Tannehill fan in the first place, so losing a guy like A.J. Brown hurts this team huge, in my opinion, because Derrick Henry, I think, kind of better days maybe behind him, and I could be wrong on that, but maybe he's getting up there in running back age at least. So when it comes down to the wide receiver core, this is going to be a good question mark. Is it going to be good enough for it to be what it was the years previous? I don't think so. So staying away for fantasy.
It's fair. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, you certainly don't have an elite player like A.J. Brown. I mean, Treylon Burks could develop into something similar, maybe not quite that ceiling, but something similar over time, but he's not going to start out like that. So you definitely don't have the talent there. I mean, there's going to be a lot of efficiency because of the play action, and despite not having A.J. Brown, they still have Derrick Henry, and everyone in the league will still respect Derrick Henry and stack the box. So when they do play action off of that, somebody's going to be open. I think Robert Woods is the more talented possession receiver. It's just a matter of health and age kind of combining to create some question marks there. And can Treylon Burks sort of bring an element of what A.J. Brown did with the downfield targets and getting open on those hyper efficient routes? So, I mean, I still like Burks. I think I would take Burks, probably, I don't know about take him ahead of Woods, but I don't think you have to. I think people have Woods pretty high right now that they're starting to think that he's going to be healthy or he's going to start to jump up by the time draft season rolls around. So I'd be willing to take a shot on Burks as a late round guy just to grab and see if he pans out and gets a bunch of volume and breaks out. He's probably more of a second half guy than anything, but like you said, we'll see what this team's like. Sans A.J. Brown and A.J. Ryan Tannehill's not an amazing quarterback by any means.
Yeah, it will be interesting.
And then backing up the big Yeti himself, Derrick Henry, we've got rookie Hassan Haskins that they brought in versus the incumbent from last year there, Dontrell Hilliard, who was there for a period of time along with Deonta Foreman. Thoughts there on who's going to battle out for that RB2 spot, which does become important because Derrick Henry could break down or maybe cede some more carries or touches. So a good insurance back to have one way or the other.
Yeah, I like the rookie in this one. I think the rookie's gonna. I got hope for the rookie coming out of Michigan. Good running back, good size. So I'm thinking he's going to be the guy that's going to be the backup for number 2. And who knows? Maybe a little surprise for them. I mean, that would be, I think, the biggest help for them. Just offensively, any team, because they already have that good offensive line that can open it up for Derrick Henry. And if they're able to have that secondary running back, that would be pretty decent. So I'm liking this kid.
Yeah, I mean, I think if he can catch the ball well enough, which to be honest, I haven't read his profile thoroughly enough to know kind of what was his pass catching ability like in college. But Derrick Henry is not a pass catching running back. That's his biggest knock. And so if Hassan Haskins can take that role on and then grab, 3 to 5 carries a game on top of that, it could be interesting. Probably not a guy you're going to play very much, but could have some interesting flex value in a pinch, and certainly would be a player that you want to throw on your bench, because if Derrick Henry goes down, you've got probably a top 10, top 15 running back in your roster there.
Yeah. I agree.
All right. Anything else for your beloved Titans before we move on?
No. No, nothing.
Get him out of here.
Yeah, let's move on. Let's move on.
Well, we got another team with a quarterback shift here. So Matt Ryan comes upon us over to the Colts, and we know he'll be throwing the ball to Michael Pittman a lot, just like Carson Wentz was last year. Pittman's a player I'm super excited about, and I think most people are. But after that, it's super murky, like not just the wide receiver core, the tight end core as well. But we'll start with the wide receiver core and kind of incorporate the tight end, because anybody from either position group could kind of step up here. So, I mean, kind of the two primary options are Paris Campbell, who's been there forever, hyper talented, just can't stay healthy. And then the rookie Alec Pierce that they grabbed this year. And feel free to throw in anyone else you think maybe has a shot there.
Does the towel guy have any experience? Because I think you could throw him in there. It's just about anybody.
Honestly,
who are these guys?
I know.
I don't know. You got definitely an aging quarterback in Matt Ryan, who, I don't think he's Tom Brady, so kind of that's going to be caught up to him. You got Nick Foles backing him up. Could we see him be possibly playing as quarterback on this team? Most likely, maybe. But with the wide receiver core, after Michael Pittman, I'm just going to go with the guys that, you said basically as the 1-2 guys, or the 2-3, sorry.
I don't trust Paris Campbell to be healthy, but I'm not even sure that Alec Pierce is really the option. And then that leads us right into the tight end discussion of, like, if the wide receivers are no good or not good enough to really, like, establish themselves, then maybe one of the tight ends is. But then you got Mo Alley Cox, who you're like, okay, he's finally going to get a shot. And then Kyle Granson, and then the rookie Jelani Woods. And now you're like, well, that's kind of crowded too. Is there, if you put all 5 of these players together, like, somebody other than Michael Pittman has to catch passes. But who? Or is it just a little bit goes to everybody and nobody's really very effective?
Jelani Woods is 6'7", big boy, eh?
Huge,
Woo.
Man. He's huge.
Wow.
He's got real touchdown upside if he could establish himself.
I mean, Mo Alley Cox is 6'5" as well too, but 6'7". I'd like to see that. I love big guys, big wide tight ends like Jimmy Graham and stuff.
Yeah.
I just find them, they're so just fun to watch,
Oh yeah, so athletic. So
I'm rooting for that guy.
Yeah.
But when it comes to fantasy, am I brave enough? Probably not. At least not for the first few weeks.
Honestly, it's funny. The more we're sitting. The more we're sitting here talking about it, the more I'm thinking to myself, I should really get Nyheim Hines, the second running back, because he's a super effective pass catcher, and he'll probably, take some work off of Jonathan Taylor, and then maybe even come in while Taylor's in the backfield to catch passes. And maybe Hines is more of a steal than we think he is.
Yeah. I didn't know that they also, just Phillip Lindsay's backing up. He's the third running back right now on the depth chart, so. Yeah, not a guy that, but make a little noise maybe. He never actually. I had him on my fantasy. I think I don't know, his second year or something. Yeah, it didn't pay out.
He had a 1,000-yard season with the Broncos as an undrafted free agent.
Yeah,
undrafted rookie.
So I think it was the year after that.
Yeah. Well, speaking of running backs that probably won't amount to much. Let's head over to Houston, where they've got quite the running back carousel here. Man, it is messy. So you've got Marlon Mack, who's coming,
Mhm.
second year back from an Achilles injury. You got Rex Burkhead, who's aging and shown flashes in career, but never been a workhorse back. And then you got the rookie Damian Pierce, who's mostly intriguing just because he's on the Texans and there's no one else. Well, not really because he's uber talented, but who's going to emerge here? And that's what are your
Mhm.
thoughts on this one?
Yeah, uh, I gotta think. They're, I gotta think they're hoping that Damian Pierce is going to, at least be somebody that they can grow and build it into the next big running back for them. Because why else? Why even take him in the draft, or why even pick him up, kind of thing, right? So, but is it this year? That's the tough question, and I don't know. It's hard to tell because there's some guys some of these teams, they draft some of these young guys, and do they push them too much in that first season, and they just kind of get over like played, or they just kind of seem to drown out and never become what they were intended to become. And so, is that going to happen with this guy? Because Marlon Mack, like you said, he's not coming back from injury. Rex Burkhead on the out, so he may get a lot of touches. Definitely someone to keep an eye on.
Yeah, yeah, it's worth taking a shot on somebody here. I mean, you're probably not going to have to pay a whole lot in terms of draft cost, or God forbid you want to trade for one of these guys in a dynasty league. But you know, somebody will produce, and this is not like it's not going to be a great offense, but it's not going to be as bad as some of the other offenses that we've talked about already. Like
Mm-hmm.
Davis Mills is okay. We'll talk about their wide receiver core in a minute, but I think they'll put up some points, and they're going to run the ball in the red zone from time to time. So somebody's going to have some value. And Marlon Mack's probably the most intriguing, at least to start the season out.
For sure.
Then we'll see if Damian Pierce maybe has anything to take over in the second half. Now, as we said, so I mean, they got Brandon Cooks there, who's like a perennial, undervalued, super consistent wide receiver. He's
Mm-hmm.
probably the new Robert Woods in the league, truthfully. Um, but behind him, you got rookie Nico Collins from last year, so he's entering his second year. And then this year's rookie John Mechie, who's got some health questions about kind of whether he'll be available to start the season, or when his health will allow him to return.
Mm.
So what are you thinking here on Collins and Mechie and anyone else the Texans might have to throw the ball to?
They're kind of like they're kind of like what we were just talking about with Indy, kind of like after Cooks, like it's kind of like it's question mark. So I'm kind of wondering like who is it, kind of thing. I'm kind of at a loss. I'm hoping that one of these guys will be something so that I can get steal. I think to keep an eye on both Houston and Indy just in case, because there could be that possibility one of these guys just turns it up, halfway through the season. So I great teams to keep an eye on, I think, in my opinion, because who knows? I think Houston maybe a little bit more, but especially if these two wide receivers, hopefully one of them will pan out.
Yeah, I mean, they're both teams that have to play each other and Jacksonville twice. And so, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they're both teams then that could have some good games, and then depending on their schedules, but they're probably going to be in a lot of negative game scripts where they're passing the ball a lot. And after Pittman and Cooks, it's like, well, who's catching the ball? And so, like we're talking about here, there's opportunity because of the ambiguity, and somebody could emerge ahead of everyone else, and then that person has some fantasy value.
Yeah.
So, yeah, exciting ones to monitor and then see where we end as training camp goes. What's the health like on Mechie? I like Collins. I think he's interesting, and he'd be the player
Go.
I'd lean on. I know he's got a cool
Michigan.
name too,
Yeah.
Nico. All right. Well, last but not least, the still recovering from the trauma of Urban Meyer, Jacksonville Jaguars.
Oh, too
Man,
soon. Too soon.
I feel for these. I feel for everyone involved.
Yeah.
Oh man, what a disaster. So, I mean, there's not actually like there's some carryover, but there's a lot of turnover there too, not just in the coaching staff, but in the players on the field. So, you got Trevor Lawrence, who's obviously looking to reestablish himself after a absolutely brutal season, and he came out compared to guys like Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck as a generational talent. So certainly didn't live up to that, which is a lot of hype and expectations, but has to be better this year just out of the fact that last year was absolutely brutal. But then beyond that, it gets real interesting. So, I mean, at wide receiver, there's like literally nobody aside from Marvin Jones. I mean, they got Laviska Shenault there, but they went out and paid a bunch of money for Christian Kirk, who reset the market for wide receivers. They grabbed Zay Jones, and they do still have Marvin Jones. They got Laviska Shenault there as well.
Mhm.
But who are you leaning here? Who's your thoughts on the wide receiver?
Yeah, actually, I was a little surprised because I like this wide receiver core. It's because I'm a little bit more familiar with them. I like that they picked up Christian Kirk. They're giving him Trevor Lawrence wide receivers, in my opinion. I mean, these are
Yeah.
guys that can catch the ball. Zay Jones can have some big games. He can steal some games for you. You just gotta know when, and that's that's the hard part, right? That's the hard part with fantasy. That's why I love it. But one to actually put someone in like Zay Jones because he can get those points for you. But I kind of like this. If Trevor Lawrence, it's really, to me, these guys are going to do well if Trevor Lawrence can do well. So if he does well, these are guys that could really give you really good value on your fantasy team this year. So that's the biggest question, though. I like the wide receiver core here, but I just think it's got to come down to Trevor Lawrence and this new coach too, right? I mean, what if this new coach is just like, nope, we're going to run it. We're going to be a running team.
Doug Peterson, some pretty good experience with Carson Wentz, and did
that's
okay with some other young quarterbacks along the way here. So we'll see kind of if that translates. I think this is I like the wide receiver core as a whole. I'm with you, but I do think it is more of a sum of the parts situation. Where there's not one individual that stands out that's super talented. It's like everybody as a whole. Okay, yeah, that's pretty good as it stacks up sort of pound for pound against other cores.
Yeah, I agree. They're going to be one of those teams where you're going to playing. Someone's going to have this, Christian Kirk on their team or Marvin Jones or Zay Jones on their team, and it's going to be one of those weeks where you feel like you're going to beat that team. You're going to feel pretty confident, but it's going to be these are the guys that are going to steal that week away from you winning that week. You know what I mean? Like they're the guys that all of a sudden are going to they don't get 15 points, for 4 or 5 weeks straight, and then boom, 15, 16 points, and they just beat you, and you're just like, wait, what? That's the score. Like, who do you put in? Like, that's the toughest part. Like, you really got to pay attention to the defense that they're playing, the progression throughout the first few games. You really got to kind of look at that, and I'll definitely I'm keeping my eye on too many things. I keep saying it. Oh, keep my eye on this. Let's see if I can even remember that, but that'll be an interesting one.
Well, this is why we're getting excited for training camps, man. This is where we're going to get all the reports and get to see some film. And the running back core. So it sounds pretty straightforward until you think about James Robinson's health, right? So James Robinson came in last year, so 2 years ago, sorry, as an undrafted rookie, stole the show, was fantastic. And then they went and grabbed Etienne, and then he went down. And so it was James Robinson time again. And then James Robinson went down, and now it's Travis Etienne time. But there's some reports that Robinson might be able to make it back. And it was an Achilles injury, which we saw, Cam Akers tried to come back pretty quick, and that didn't look so good. And Marlon Mack was out for a long time. And so, you start to wonder about, what's this going to be like for people? But yeah, if he comes back, then it makes him kind of intriguing because he slots in. Otherwise, you're looking at Snoop Connor, who's there as the incoming rookie that could be behind Travis Etienne.
I just love the name. I want Snoop.
Yeah, I was waiting for it. I was like, I know you're going to be excited.
That's definitely someone I'm keeping my eye on. Definitely. I think Travis number 1, James Robinson number 2, but definitely intriguing to see if it might be a two-headed monster right there, or hopefully, I hope both guys are healthy. That would be fun to kind of watch both of those guys healthy. So, wouldn't mind either one on my fantasy team at least to have. Because this could be one of those teams, like I said, if Trevor Lawrence doesn't play well, could be relying on the running team. So, I like them.
Yeah. Travis Etienne's profile is more of a passing game, receiving game back, so could have a lot of catches, and James Robinson could be the grinder, and that could kind of work itself out that way. But yeah, we'll see what the health of James Robinson is like. That seems to be the biggest question right now.
And Snoop, I hope he makes it. Hope he's the next big running back.
All right. Well, we'll move from Mr. D-O-double-G over to the NFC with the plant man himself, as you referenced earlier, Mr. Brady leading the charge. So we saw
Are we sure he's...
Do you say, are we sure he's leading?
Are we sure? No, are we sure that he's going to be the number 1 quarterback? Like, is Blaine Gabbert's not going to be number 1? Just to make sure. I
mean, unless he's pulling off some Blaine magic there.
Oh, I like it.
It's a bit of a stretch, but I'll take it. So, I mean, we're looking at like people who are not there, and all of a sudden there's opportunity on this team. So Gronk retires, at least for now. And so now you're like, oh, what about Cameron Brate or rookie Cade Otton? So you got that kind of working out for you. Then in the wide receiver core, you're like, okay, well, Antonio Brown sort of self-retired, and then Chris Godwin got hurt. So you got like, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin when he's back, and Russell Gage, who they brought in, but who's after that? So some real questions there in the receiving core. And then you got Leonard Fournette, who's back, but Ronald Jones, who's gone. And so you wonder about the rookie, Rashad White versus Keyshawn Vaughn versus Giovanni Bernard. So pick one and start wherever you like there.
Yeah, where do I start? I like Tyler Johnson, Scotty Miller, kind of as backups on the team. I think they could come in. Tom Brady's throwing to them pretty well. Again, though, that would be tough to kind of put some of those guys in your lineup, unless you're in a pretty deep draft. But I would say I love Mike Evans. Has been my guy for a long time now in our keeper league, and he'll probably be a keeper again going into the season because he kind of. Can you let someone like that go? I don't think so. I'm asking now because now I need to know. Should I keep him? I think I should keep him. Having this conversation with myself, I think.
Objectively, you should keep him. As a person playing in your league, you should drop him and not keep him.
I like him, so I'm going to keep him. But I think Chris Godwin, if he's healthy, will fit right in there with Tom Brady. He's been really good for him. But after that, Russell Gage is going to be listed as the third starter there. So, but I like Tyler Johnson, Scotty Miller as that fourth option.
Yeah, I think Brashad Perryman's past his prime. He's had his shot. It hasn't really worked out. Cyril Grayson is kind of an intriguing name, but I like Tyler Johnson. I thought he looked good. He had some big games in the playoff run they had a couple of years ago. I couldn't get on the field much last year because of Antonio Brown and Godwin and Evans, but with Godwin out, Russell Gage will be there, but if Gage struggles or in games where they pass the ball a lot, which they passed the ball number 1 last year, there could be enough volume that he becomes an intriguing guy that you throw in now and again just to see if you can get a spike game out of him.
Yeah, I like that.
Any thoughts on the 2 tight ends there? The forever backup Cameron Brate versus the rookie Cade Otton?
I like Cameron Braid. I think he's got the best shot. He is the starting tight end there. But who knows? At the end of the day, it's who does Brady like? Who's going to be his go-to guy? He really likes. I mean, we've seen it throughout his career. He really likes a good tight end, right? He likes somebody that's resourceful and is going to get open. Like he needs that. So that to be successful. So that's going to be an interesting spot because if that doesn't happen, look out. I just don't. I don't know. I don't see Tom Brady having as good of a season if one of these two guys can't step up.
Yeah, I think it's intriguing in that perspective of like how will it affect Brady to not have a reliable tight end. So that kind of makes me a little intrigued by Kate Otten, more so for a dynasty or maybe the end of the year, if anything. But what it does for me is makes me a little more excited about Russell Gage and or kind of Tyler Johnson in the end, because I don't think you're going to have all those touchdowns and targets going to somebody like Gronk. So now you're wondering like, hey, maybe there's some extra to go around. I mean, again, it supports your Mike Evans is going to go nuclear this year, but beyond that, until Godwin comes back, somebody's got to catch some touchdowns and passes. So I think that's intriguing for those guys.
I like the third string tight end name, Ko Kiff. Is that it?
Oh yeah.
Let's go, Ko Kiff.
There you go. All right, and then what about behind Leonard Fournette? We got the rookie Rachaad White, the couple years ago rookie Keyshawn Vaughn, and then old man Giovanni Bernard, who's been a pretty good pass catcher in his day, but never really amounted to a whole lot.
Yeah, I like Leonard Fournette. Behind him, yeah, I hope this rookie can pay off. Watch Leonard Fournette though. I feel like he's really productive when he's on those teams that has that guy that can step in for him. So hopefully Rachaad White can be that guy, and keep an eye on that because even that may even take over the number one spot halfway through the season. You never know, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of hope and optimism around him and his pass catching ability. And there's certainly going to be a lot of work to go around. I mean, this is a fast-paced offense. They pass the ball a lot. We just talked about how they're not going to have Godwin to start the year. They're not going to have AB, and they're probably not going to have Gronk. And good chance to get involved. So, Rod White could be really interesting. Does quite well for himself and catches a lot of passes this year.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything else on the Buccaneers before we move along?
That's about it. Buccaneers.
All right. Let's head to New Orleans. So we got Jameis coming back. Reports are that he's close to healthy now, and hopefully that's the case because I'd like to see him healthy. He's a decent guy and fun to watch.
Yeah.
Now, I had originally put this as wide receiver too, and then I thought to myself, you know what? Let's just keep everybody in play because while Michael Thomas is certainly the most talented of the bunch, he's been unreliable. He's been injured. He's been sort of questionable in his decision making around the commitment to the team and some medical decisions about getting surgery. So who knows kind of what that leaves in terms of his status and availability. So let's throw him in there along with the rookie Chris Olave and veteran Jarvis Landry, who they grabbed that the Browns let go.
Yeah, Michael Thomas was a guy that I had on my team and was a keeper for a few years and was super talented. Hoping that he's fully recovered, just back, and because I'd like to bring him back on my team. Bring him back to the winning side. And Jameson Winston, yeah, like you said, just to follow up on that, seems like a really good guy, and just want to see him succeed. And he had a lot of success down in Florida. And just like to see that guy have a good, full, healthy season and a good team in New Orleans. So definitely, though, after Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, I like that as their second wide receiver. So, but hopefully Michael Thomas, yeah, I'm hopeful because he's definitely good. Prince.
Yeah, I mean, as I alluded to at the beginning, he's the most talented on the team. There's no question.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris Olave could become that, fairly quickly. He's pretty talented as well, and played with some real talent at college. But yeah, if he's there and available and healthy, then Michael Thomas has a good shot to have a good year. I like Chris Olave. I think he's interesting. Jarvis Landry, he's reliable. He fits into that sort of Cole Beasley type that we've talked about a couple of times there, Corey Davis sort of thing. But not somebody gets super excited about. So I'm intrigued by Chris Olave to see what he can do this year.
Yeah, well, I'll second that. Good rookie to keep an eye on.
So, yeah.
He's not
Now the running back position is, he is, is kind of a mess here. Now we got Kamara, and I don't know if you've heard, but there's been a lot of rumors going on about the incident he had at the Pro Bowl with the bar fight and the assault and stuff. And the report was just recently that came out is that he's bracing for a 6-game suspension. Because that's the NFL policy for like assault or like violent, matters that you're involved in. So if Kamara misses 6 games, then who the running back 2 is, at least for those 6 games, becomes really interesting in this offense. So we've got old man Mark Ingram, who stepped in last year. We got the rookie from last year, Tony Jones Jr., who did not produce well and couldn't stay healthy. And then we got journeyman Dwayne Washington, who's hanging around.
Give me Mark Ingram. Give me Mark Ingram all day long, and just if Alvin Kamara can't go, pick up Ingram, because he's going to be the guy. Like, I don't see the other 2 guys being there. So Mark Ingram he's reliable, man. Like, I like Mark Ingram. He's Alabama, and he comes from that Bama like running back school of just hard knocks, big thigh dudes. They're just big dudes.
He's so incredible. He's been incredibly talented. I mean, he is 33 years old, so that's a bit of a scary thing for a running back. But I'm with you. He's the one I'm putting my chips on. The intriguing part about the Kamara situation is like his court date just got pushed back to August. So you're thinking to yourself, like, if this 6-game suspension comes, like, when does it come? Because it might not come week 1, right? So like it could be, remember Zeke a few years ago, he got suspended from like week 10 to 16 or like week 8 to 14 or something for 6 games. It was like right in the middle of the season, right? So like that's entirely a possibility. So you may not know, right? Like Kamara could be the guy, all's well, and then like boom, here comes the suspension. He's gone for 6 games, and now you got to figure somebody out. Right?
That's intriguing.
Or it could be like not even this year, right? Like maybe Kamara's lawyers are good enough to pass that along till the end of the season, and then put it off to the off season so it comes out next year.
Oh, those sneaky lawyers. Oh, those shiesty. Yeah.
Yeah. You never know what they could pull off, man.
And us fantasy people are just waiting.
Just waiting. Give me more information so I know what to do with Kamara and the draft, whether Ingram's the guy I want to grab right at the beginning.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else for New Orleans before we fly over the Falcons?
Do I see Taysom Hill listed as the 2nd tight end?
I know, man. They designated him as a tight end this year because he's not going to play quarterback now that Jameis is there. So it's real interesting because if he comes in for some like crazy passing plays or running plays at the goal line, he makes for like a really weird but sneaky tight end.
That could be fun to watch.
It could be fun for fantasy too, right? Like he might be a guy you grab just in case.
Oh, yeah. Play a sneaky
week. He could throw a touchdown or run a touchdown in, right?
Yeah, could do it a couple times, gets a couple touchdowns, gets you 14 points or something. It's not bad for a tight end.
Yeah, anything's possible. It's a wild world out there. All right. Speaking of wild worlds, we got the Atlanta Falcons, who are looking to be on the rise here. I mean, they're in a rebuild, for being honest. They shipped off Matt Ryan, who was next to Kyle Pitts, their best player. So they went out and grabbed Desmond Ridder, who looks like he could be a reasonable quarterback. In the meantime, they signed Marcus Mariota, who was backing up your man Derek Carr there in Vegas. And so we got that, and that's a fun battle to kind of keep an eye on. Likely that Mariota kind of gets the nod at the beginning, but what are your thoughts on Ridder having a chance to take the job? Maybe day one or mid-season, late season? What do you think?
That's a possibility. I mean, Mariota hasn't quite proven himself. He had some good games and not a bad season there with Tennessee a few years back, and just quite couldn't make it though there. And then backing up Derek Carr in Vegas, and now he's listed obviously as the starter, but it's not clear and cut, right? It's going to be a close one, and definitely it's going to be coming down to this preseason who wants it more. And I'd like to see Mariota succeed, because I just I like where he's come from in Oregon and coming into the NFL. So I'd like to see him be that number one guy, but I mean it's going to be close.
Yeah, it's going to be intriguing. I think Mariota will get the start. This feels a bit like the Trubisky situation from the Steelers. Mariota is going to be the guy, although Pickett has a lot more draft capital than Ridder, so let's not get ourselves on that one. But I think Mariota gets the nod, and then if the Falcons start to sink to the bottom of the division, which I think inevitably is going to happen, then they'll think, well, we probably should see what we got in terms of Ridder and turn to him at some point. I think he hits the field week 10 the latest, but I think he's on the field for the second half at some point.
Any chance we see Philippe Frank?
I doubt it.
Just another name I like to say.
Hey, fair enough.
Toby likes to say it too.
There's Toby. All right, so the running backs here, we got another 33-year-old running back, Cordero Patterson, from last year. Damian Williams, who they grabbed from the Bears there. And then Tyler Algier, the rookie that they brought in. So how do you think this one shakes out? I mean, Patterson certainly going to start as the guy, but didn't hold up well down the stretch last year. Got the most workload he's ever had in his entire career. And that's not necessarily the way you want to go at age 33 years old. So how do you think this one plays out?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I'd sell Cordell, definitely. Just while you may get a first few weeks out of him, so it may be a guy that you want to keep around, but I don't think he can duplicate what he did last season. And they're going to try to rely on him because he is the go-to guy. Like when you look at that running back core, so he'll be the guy, but definitely intriguing though to keep your eye on those other couple of guys, because like I said, I don't think he's going to be as useful as it goes down the road. So you'll probably get value out of those secondary guys like Damian Williams. Yeah,
I mean it's interesting because Damian Williams is 29 himself, so like not youthful by any means. So I mean Tyler Algier has the opportunity to watch one or both of these guys struggle with injuries and health and then just go ahead and take over this backfield. But not somebody that I think you need to draft, maybe in Dynasty. But Dynasty's dicey because his team probably gets an early pick next year and grabs a running back in the second round. So I don't know about that for Algier in Dynasty. But yeah, could be an interesting one to throw on your watch list and see how the season progresses this year. I mean, I got the wide receiver 2 here. I mean, so Kyle Pitts is locked in at tight end. Drake London, the rookie, is clearly the guy. We got Olamide Zaccheaus and Brian Edwards that we have to sort of obligatorily throw out, but I'm not excited about either, and I don't see a situation where I want either in my lineup for fantasy.
Yeah, I'm going to second that.
I can't even find a path to excitement or success on these ones.
I think Kyle Pitts will definitely be a very high used tight end. So I got to think, though, in a lot of dynasty leagues or a lot of keeper leagues, a lot of people are going to probably have kept that guy on their team. So, but if you're able to, not a bad tight end to have. So, yeah, I don't know much about the secondary guys, and so I'm just going to stay away from them.
Yeah. Rookie Drake London that they grabbed him real high. He could be intriguing. Probably soak up some targets. He's a big guy, just like Pitts. So he's got a little touchdown upside in the red zone, but just not sure how good this offense is going to be. So a little scared for tight ends, for touchdowns for either guy, which is probably the biggest thing Pitts has going against him. Because he'll probably hit 1,000 yards again, but he only had one touchdown last year. So, he'll get. All right. Last but not least,
Woo!
we're headed to get ourselves some delicacies, some baked goods from our man Baker.
Mm-hmm.
Find him in the kitchen. And we'll throw out the running back just so we can end with the fun discussion here. But so behind CMC, we got Chuba Hubbard and Deonta Foreman. My mistake for saying Mac was the one with the Achilles. It's Deonta Foreman that came back from the Achilles. But so we got two guys here. Obviously, with CMC's recent injuries, worth having an eye on who wins this. I don't have a strong inclination towards either one. I probably lean Deonta Foreman because he looked okay last year, but Hubbard was the two last year when McCaffrey went down. So I don't know what your thoughts are on those two.
Give me Chuba. I'm cheering for Chuba because he's Canadian. Good old Canadian boy.
Ah, there it is. Yeah, put that up for Canada Day on Twitter.
Yeah, gotta cheer for Chuba. Hopefully he gets that second spot.
Let's do it.
That's the only reason I'm taking him for a second spot.
All right. To the main event, Mr. Baker Mayfield. So we put this as a competition just to kind of make it interesting so we can talk about the trade as well. But Sam Darnold's still there. PJ Walker still there. Matt Corral, the rookie they drafted, going to stay there. And now Baker Mayfield, who they grabbed for a conditional fifth-round pick that could turn into a fourth if they play him enough. And they are only paying $5 million for him. $3.5 million he took and turned into incentives, and the Browns are paying $10 million to get him off their roster, and so that they save $8.5 million towards their cap hit. So, thoughts on Baker? Thoughts on the Panthers receivers? Thoughts on this whole mess that the Browns have found themselves in? What are you thinking?
Yeah, well, good on the Panthers for doing that trade. I mean, I think it's a really even if Baker doesn't pan out, you didn't give up anything really, right? So you really have won on this trade, and they retain so much salary. So good on the Panthers for this trade. I think it's good for Baker. He gets out of that situation. I hope he can have some success here in Carolina. Take away all the stuff off the field and everything. I think he's been a pretty decent quarterback. He's had some really good wide receivers. Obviously, one of the best in the game, and Beckham Jr. So, can he make something with DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson as the number two? It's going to be a big question mark, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think this offense will remain sort of run heavy behind McCaffrey, and then maybe they'll get either Chuba or Foreman involved there. But it's intriguing. I mean, DJ Moore is super talented. Robbie Anderson had some nice flashes for both with the Jets and the Panthers in his first year there. Terrence Marshall Jr. is an interesting wide receiver rookie from last year that didn't pan out, but that was probably mostly because of Sam Darnold. So yeah, there's an interesting opportunity here, and I like Baker. I mean, I think he's got more talent than he probably gets credit for. He broke the rookie touchdown record before Justin Herbert broke it in his rookie season, but he's played with, constant turnover in an absolutely chaotic organization.
Mm-hmm.
Comes in and it's like coaches, if Hugh Jackson gets fired and Freddie Kitchens gets fired, and it's just like Stefanski comes in and then Breaker's injured, and it's like there's no consistency for the guys. He didn't have a ton of weapons. Like, I don't think he really had much shot to succeed from year to year. So I'm optimistic about him. I don't put him, I'm not going to put him anywhere near the top 12 or anything, but he could be an interesting streamer if he can emerge, and definitely a guy as a second quarterback in a 2 QB superflex league.
Yeah, well said. Well said, because he has had a lot of turnover coaches, so hopefully he gets a shot here. And Carolina's not a bad place to play either. I think weather-wise, it's a little bit nicer than some of the weather he was experiencing up there in Cleveland. So
yeah, I remember there's a couple games last year where the final score was like 9-6 and like 10-7, and you're like, Jesus, because the wind was so strong there, nobody could throw the ball. It's like,
it's brutal for quarterbacks, right? So he plays out of Texas, plays out of the warm weather, so that's where he came from. So it's obviously not Texas, but I mean it's better than Cleveland weather-wise.
Exactly.
So I'm fingers crossed for him.
Yeah. All right. So we both agree he'll be the starter from day one. No argument there. And we're intrigued to see what he can do.
Absolutely.
All right. We have 8 more divisions under our belt, and or 8 more teams, 2 more divisions, and we've got 2 divisions left. We'll be headed to the West, which will be fun that we saved that to the end because it's got both our teams in it. So that'll be an intriguing discussion for next week. But
Super Bowl champs too.
Anything else? Pardon?
Super Bowl champs are in the West.
That's right. Anything else you want to throw out on these ones before we throw out the socials and call it a day?
No, it's been a pleasure. It has been a pleasure tonight to go through these teams and get a little bit more excited for the start of preseason and then the eventual start of the season. So I am ready.
Every week we do this. It's 1 week closer, man. So find us, GibsonFantasyFootball.com, Gibson_FF on Twitter, or Gibson Fantasy Football, all one word, Instagram, YouTube, Podbean, Spotify. Please like, comment, subscribe. We appreciate any interaction you have for us. Come find us, hit us up. And in the meantime, enjoy your weekend, everybody. And until next time, clear eyes, full heart.